What's going on, everybody? I'm Kyle, actually gonna upload a video for once. First time in like, I don't know, 3 years, something like that probably. I'm here with Mike. Say what's up, Mike.
Hello.
There he is. Today we're doing something pretty simple, as you see on your screen. A little bit of a tier list. We talk about a lot of these tracks, whether it be in the broadcast on TOECAR or just in general. Figured it's about time we put some actual thought into things instead of just shit posting. So we're gonna rank these tracks. It goes from scale S to F, of course. S being the best, F being Phoenix. Spoilers. But hopefully everywhere else, all those tracks cycle in somewhere in between. Obviously, there's two of us. We might have Matt join in a little bit later because we're going to record the Cup finale for Splint Cup right after this. Tristan's probably going to join us pretty soon as well. Don't know if they'll be here when we record this or if it'll be a little bit after, but don't be surprised if they jump in. I'm excited to rank some tracks, Mike.
I know, there's a lot of these that I really like and a lot that make my blood boil.
And we talk about it sometimes in your race broadcasts, or sorry, not broadcast, reactions, I should say. But at the same time, like, we don't really get a lot of time to really talk about how much we feel about these tracks, in depth at least. So this will be a good opportunity for that. I'm very vocal on Twitter. If you don't follow me, I'm sure it'll be in the description. Don't have to follow me, of course. Just do it if you feel like it. But you'll see a lot of the same opinions here, I'm sure, if you do already follow me. Anyways, without further ado, let's jump in. It's all alphabetized. I do want to point out we have every single track on all three of the schedules. We don't have Arga because we don't hate ourselves quite that much. I don't think anything else goes to Mid-Ohio. I see that's not missing, or I see that's not here, pardon me. And I don't think trucks go there anymore, so I think that's fine. We're just going to roll with it. The track is on this list. We're going to rank it. If it's not on this list, it's the person who made its fault. That's not up to me. I don't know. We're going to start with Atlanta. Me personally, I really like Atlanta just because you get a lot of cool little side-by-side battles where it's really not under control, which you don't see a lot of at Daytona or Talladega. It's kind of its own thing. It almost feels like a brand new genre.
Are we speaking exclusively new Atlanta?
We're going to talk about the current version of all of these tracks. We're recording this, okay. It's, what is this, July 15th. So if this changes by July 16th, it's already outdated. But as of right now, how we feel about these tracks.
I definitely Atlanta would be either, it would be B or above for sure. But which of those three? I guess it depends on the series because, like, the next gen's really draggy and drafty, which kind of serves that style and doesn't really spread out like the other series do.
Fair. And we should probably take all series into account. So I would definitely say, I feel like I agree with your statement about it being B or above. I think for Cup, it would be S. I really love it for Cup. It's so similar to Bumpy Daytona, in my opinion. I know it's not an identical kind of replica of how that raced, but it's about as close as it can get. I don't think we're going to ever see Daytona get back to that in our lifetimes, just because it took, 40 years last time, and I don't think they're going to wait that long in this era to repave. So
they have better pavement now.
That they do. So personally, I think I'm perfectly fine keeping this right in B. It feels like a good starting point. I really like it, but for Xfinity and trucks, it's sometimes a little bit much. Xfinity especially, like, it just kind of feels like they're all gridlocked. Nobody can really do anything. It's very reminiscent of like Gen 6 at like Talladega, which I was not very big on myself. But Cup is really, really nice. Especially the July race or August race, whatever it ends up being this year, where it's nice and warm, sliding all around. Very, very, very cool. Next up, we have Bristol Motor Speedway. I want to point out, too, just because it's already gone off the schedule, this is only the concrete version. Forget the dirt Bristol. Let's all put that out of our memory and never go back. But regular Bristol here. I think Bristol's still fantastic. Obviously, it doesn't necessarily have the fanfare or pageantry it used to have. Obviously, late 90s, early mid-2000s, it was impossible to get a ticket there. It was sold out. It was just such a crazy environment. One of the best in sports, quite frankly, if I do say so myself. It's not really been that, at least not in the past 10 years, but I still look forward to every single Bristol race, whether there's tire shenanigans like this year or otherwise.
Yeah, I do too. It's definitely something I wouldn't want to miss every year. Even like 15, 20 years ago, like, it was a staple. Like, I remember watching the August Bristol race every year, like the weekend before I was getting ready for the first day of school. That was always a fun memory. Like, back then I would say it was A tier, but nowadays it would probably be B in my opinion.
You know what? That's probably a fair take. I'm going to put it in B for now. I think maybe at the end, if we have time, if it's not running too long, we might rank these within the category a little bit. But for now, just going to slot it in B and we're going to move on. And our next track is out of order as far as like alphabetical, but we're going to just ignore that for now. It's the LA Coliseum for the Busch Clash. That's probably why it was here in the first place. I like this more than most people seem to like this, but it does kind of feel a little silly. I'm not going to lie. It's a very, very cool deal. It's nice that we're in LA Coliseum. It's beautiful. That arena is amazing. And it's nice to be in a market like Los Angeles, even Fontana when they raced there. Still a little bit off to the side. It was past Ontario, I think, even if memory serves me correct. So a little bit out of the ways. I don't think a lot of people from the core audience in Los Angeles would actually go out to see a race in Fontana. Whereas the Busch Clash being in LA Coliseum, kind of in the heart of LA, I think that's a much better fit. But the track itself is tiny. It's got all the walls. It's got branding everywhere. It kind of feels like you're just driving around a Walmart with a souped-up shopping cart.
Yeah, like that track, I would really love to see other types of cars race there because like quarter-mile tracks do have good racing, like at Bowman Gray and stuff. But when you have a car with four rubber steamroller tires that are like flypaper, and the only way to pass anybody is just slamming them out of the groove, it's just like bumper cars. So I mean, if we're only accounting the next gen there, it would probably be D for me. But if there's other cars there, it would probably be maybe B. I don't know.
You know, I would typically be a little more optimistic. We did see the Mexico Series there this year with the Cup cars, and I'm not sure that they did much better. I did watch both races, and I do, like I said, I do like this more than most people do. I know there's a lot of people online that hate it because it's new and it's NASCAR fans and they get mad at anything that's new. But I really do think it was a good idea. It was worth doing. It was a fun ride. I am very happy they're leaving, though. I think I'm agreeing with you, and we're going to slot this right in D. If they could make it a few more longer runs, it would probably be a little bit higher up. If the main events actually delivered, it'd be a little higher up. It feels like the heats always seem to outshine the actual main event. So that's just where it stands, at least for right now. Obviously, we can always revise a little bit later. Next up, Charlotte Motor Speedway. I'm going to say something that could be potentially controversial. I'm putting this potentially an S. And here's why. This has been, at worst, the second best Cup car for the next gen. They've been ripping around there. It's been a classic both years in the 600. Or actually all 3 years, pardon me. I know this one kind of got dampened by rain, but that wasn't the racing that was the problem. It was more so the weather. And then the drama with the Kyle Larson stuff, of course. But as far as the actual racing product, you put those next-gen cars out on track, it's really, really good, usually start to finish, in my opinion. The Xfinity cars are good pretty much everywhere, so it's not even really up for debate as far as that's concerned, in my opinion. And trucks, I'm not going to lie, this feels like a very weak track for the truck series. I don't remember a lot of races recently where I've been like, yeah, that was worth my time, which is a little bit unfortunate because trucks used to be really, really good at a lot of the mile and a halves. But I don't see this being lower than A, personally.
No, it would definitely be A, in my opinion, because like with the next gen, it's one of the best tracks that car can race at. But like it's not perfect, so I would maybe save S for something that's closer to perfect.
You raise a good point, Mike. I think we can agree with that. I think even if we rank these amongst like the same people in each category, I'm still gonna have this probably at the top of A, but we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. And somehow we're still at Charlotte, by the way, because next up is the Roval. I thought this track would be gone after this year. Somehow it's not. I think most people within the sport did feel that way. We obviously, I'm sure you've put this together if you're watching this video. You probably know Mike's channel. We do know a few people that work in the sport, whether that be drivers or crew members or otherwise. And I feel like a lot of them also expected this track to go away. And there was not a lot of happy people when they decided to refurbish it and keep it around. I have a little bit of a higher opinion on this track than most. I don't think it's terrible, but I also don't really look forward to it. So in my opinion, this is going to live somewhere in the C category.
Yeah, like it has its moments, like especially with that one finish with Truex and Johnson, but like that was just more Jimmy losing his mind. So that wasn't really replicated. And not to mention how many attempts did they have on reconfiguring the backstretch chicane? Let's not forget that first configuration where they're just ripping through there at 180 and slamming into the tires. So like,
for those who watch TOECAR, you probably have put this together. I am an absolute connoisseur of chaos. I love stupid corners. I love street courses. I love, spoiler for Chicago, of course. I love all sorts of goofy like manners of racing. That backstretch chicane was right up my alley. I loved that. If that was still there, I'd probably rank this way higher than C. But it's gone now. It is gone, unfortunately. I will say also in the track's favor, the 2020 Xfinity race, that was the night Roval race in the monsoon. That's one of my favorite races of all time just because it was so silly. Once in a while, those kind of races just hit. You know, I don't need that every week. I don't even want that every week. I need a couple, Richmonds and Homesteads and so on, where it's just good racing and life goes on. But every once in a while, I feel like you really need just a stupid abomination of a race, and that one was perfect. Picture perfect.
Yeah. I would normally say D, but because it gives a tremendous rain race, I would agree with C.
I think I concur with that opinion. We're gonna put that right here. Next up, Chicago Street Race. Disclaimer, this one that just happened this year, I did attend, so maybe I'm a little biased. But I assure you I did feel this way beforehand, too, even in 2023. I love this track. I love the track. I love the concept of us bringing stock cars to street courses. I feel like it's way overdue. I realize I'm also biased because I live in New York City, so it'd definitely benefit me if this was a big thing that we started doing. But I can't deny it. The racing has been really, really good. We've been impacted by rain both years in the Cup Series, and they still put on a show, in my opinion, both times. Even this year, crazy strategy. It was hard to kind of keep track of where everybody's going to shake out, with some people on the slicks, some people on the wet tires. It could have been a photo finish or a real cool battle if Tyler Reddick didn't choke.
I'm sorry about that.
It's all good. I'm still recovering. Anyways, 2023, absolute classic, SVG1. Xfinity race in the first year was a humongous letdown. It really wasn't anybody's fault. It was just because the race got shortened by a bunch. I think it was like 25 laps the entire race in the first season here. This year, obviously, Xfinity kind of weather-free. That was a classic. I was going crazy in the stands. I was watching Larson and SVG just go at it. Two of the best people in the series at the top of their game right now. That is fun to watch. Whether it's on TV or in person, I think that translates, and I hope people will agree with me when I say that. Not a perfect race. Obviously, there are some things that could potentially be a little bit different that might be better. But for me, I'd have a hard time rating this anything lower than A.
Yeah, I was really skeptical about the street race, especially with the Cup cars there and how they drive on road courses. But I don't know if it's just because of the weather. I'm sure it's just because of the track also. But like, it was really entertaining both times. So I would definitely keep it top of the half of the chart.
As we're joined by Matt and his entrance music, that was perfect timing. Matt, we're ranking tracks. Welcome everybody, Matt. You guys know him if you watch TOECAR, obviously. We're at the Chicago Street Course. Perfect time to chime in, Matt. What do you think? Just as far as
First
racing.
thing I think is Bristol needs to be an A. That feels like a crime to me immediately.
Understood. We can review these.
Wait, let me ask for context. Is this just like the Cup car?
This is across all three.
Oh, dude, it's got to be A.
All right, we'll revisit that a little later. Right now we're talking about Chicago. I personally think Chicago can't be worse than an A. And just because it feels like it puts on a great Cup race, the Xfinity race like this particular year was an absolute classic. Where do you stand?
Yeah, I'd say A until like we do another street race, and then we can decide if it's S tier. Like, there needs to be some sort of
only up from here.
Yeah, like if it's only up from here, then like definitely like just A. But like right now, I just feel like it could be S, but that's just the bias of like it's the first street race. It's been really cool despite weather.
Yeah, and I agree with that specifically. We just did the Roval, and I feel like the first 2 years of the Roval were really, really hype, and then after that it fell off a cliff. It hurt me, I think, if we saw that happen to Chicago. If we even come back, I really hope we do. But I agree with that. We're going to put this in A for now. Next up, Circuit of the Americas. Boy, oh boy. I wanted to like this track so much, and I still do probably more than most people. But it's just not gone that track's way. 2021, the first year they went, just terrible rain race. They couldn't even go down the straightaway without crashing. That's probably one of the worst things I've seen happen in the series as far as like just driving is concerned. Nobody's fault, nothing they could do, just didn't work out. And then after that, it just feels like every race devolves into a shit show. This year, in my opinion, they butchered the restart zones at these road course races just because that one race, Reddick won, where it was just 5 or 6 green white checkers. I understand that was kind of a lot, right? I'm not denying that. But every once in a while, that's fine. It happened one time in the track's history. I feel like people overreacted. And now we're taking away cool restarts at every road course for nothing. What do you guys think?
I've just struggled to enjoy that track. Like every time they go there, like they have moments, but it's you can definitely tell it's an F1 design track.
Matt?
Yeah, it's a bit too tight, I'd think. I like going there. It ends up in a lot of walking for me, but and you know what I'm thinking of right now is all the people that say we could run the short course and it would be better, but like I don't know if it really will. I think it'll just turn it into more of bumper cars. So I don't know. I think it's all right. I think it's different and like interesting on paper. And you know, usually in ironically, in like Xfinity races, it seems to be a lot better. It's just the Cup Series, they just kind of either spread out or hit each other all the time.
Well, that'll be what happens when you drive an aerodynamic brick like they do. I'm putting this. I can't, in good faith, put this above D. I don't think.
No.
I think we're gonna put this. I think it's even behind the Coliseum for me. I'm putting that right there. We'll discuss that.
Yeah, at least Coliseum's supposed to be bumper cars. That's the point.
Yeah, definitely. There's definitely a correlation between these two. I don't know if you can see my cursor, but definitely a correlation in category D. Speaking of D, next up, Darlington. Yeah, or just not even Carlington, just rolling. Tough
Arling.
2. The tough 2. Turn 2 is tough.
Why toe?
Darlington, I think this one goes without saying. Darlington's amazing. Every race there, it doesn't matter what car you bring, what series it is, what year it is. I've never not liked the race at Darlington, whether it be the COT, the Gen 6, the next gen, the trucks. I've not seen anything I didn't like. It feels like no matter what, there's always a really cool tire strategy playing out. It always feels like they're on the edge of control no matter how much downforce they slap on these things, or side force, or what have you. You even had the 550 package that one year, I'm pretty sure, and I'm pretty sure that was great. So I don't think you can mess this track up, and for that, I have to put this in S, personally.
Yeah, I've always enjoyed Darlington. They say it's too tough to tame, and there seems to be a lot of drivers like Eric Jones that, you would think, 15th place driver throughout the season, and then they go and just kick ass at Darlington. So it's definitely a wild card of a track. It's not like anything else on the schedule with the two completely different turns like that. I enjoy it every time, so I would agree with S.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I cannot think of a single Darlington race that's like even just mid. It's just always interesting. So definitely S. IMO.
I agree.
For what it's
Tristan
worth.
is here. Tristan, well, first of all, welcome. Second of all,
Hello.
we're ranking tracks. We're at Darlington right now. What's your opinion on Darlington?
We're talking IRL, correct?
Correct. Every series, real life racing. Every NASCAR
Not like
series.
my
Top
iRacing.
No iRacing.
Okay.
The Cup
All right.
Series, the Xfinity Series, and the Truck Series, any era. Actually, sorry, no, current, not any era, current.
I dare say, Darlington is an S tier track. At the very least, A tier.
Well, that settles it. That's a clean sweep. Darlington, our first S of the day. One of, I'm probably assuming, maybe 3 to 5. Maybe definitely no more than that. Potentially a few less. We'll see how it shakes out. Next up, we got the Classic, the biggest race of the year, Daytona. Sometimes Daytona can be iffy. I like Super Speedway racing, but sometimes, especially with the next gen, it can get a little gridlocked. The Xfinity car usually puts on a really good show. I feel like that race, season opener at the very least, has been a classic the past 10, 15 years. I feel like the same could be said, honestly, for the July race or August race, depending on when it happened. Trucks, I'm not going to lie. Trucks is always a demolition derby. It's the start of the year, so I'm excited when it happens. It's the first race, so I'm definitely going to want to see it. But sometimes it's just whatever. Life goes on after it's done. I feel like a lot of the time, if there's a race that's going to be marred in controversy in the Daytona week, it's probably going to be the truck race. But I can't let that bring it down lower than an A. But I am willing to put it in S if you guys believe so.
It's tough for me because it does have really good races. I would definitely put it above Talladega in my opinion, just because it's a tighter track and there's more handling involved even in today's cars. Not even just 20 years ago. And with the old surface, it's like that now still if the cars are going super fast, which the Cup cars did a couple years ago. But it would be A or S. I can't honestly decide between, because I would say S because between all three series you get a taste of everything. You'll get cleaner racing in Cup probably, and then you can have a complete shit show in trucks if you want to get your crash goods out, and then Xfinity is just usually the good in between.
I think Daytona at this point may have even dropped down to a B for me. Even just taking out the thinking about how much it's costing people and all the things like that. It's just not. I mean, like you said, there is still a little bit of the talent and handling aspect to it because it is tighter, but it's still just such a crapshoot at this point, more often than not, that I don't get excited like I used to. It just feels like more dangerous bumper cars.
Okay.
Like the Clash at 185 miles an hour.
What do you think, Tristan?
Well, heritage aside, because I feel like obviously heritage is a huge factor when it comes to talking about Daytona. Like, everyone knows what Daytona is, but for me, I think you got to take into account this is one of the very few tracks that I find it very exciting personally, because you never know who's going to win usually. Like, anybody, for the most part, anybody has a shot at winning it, and that's where the excitement comes into play. You could have somebody who normally doesn't win, or someone who's never even won a race before, or win a race, and that in itself is really exciting to me. Obviously, the rush of, I'm not going to say necessarily I enjoy the crashing, but there is a little rush there, where it's like, yeah, it's dangerous, but we all know that at the same time. Nobody ever wants to see a huge wreck or anybody get hurt, obviously, but that's just a part of the culture, if that makes sense. So, I mean, when I'm thinking about it, I just think because it's such a wild card, it has to, like, I wouldn't put it any lower than A tier. I personally still think it's an S tier track, but that's where I stand on it, because it's such a unique track, and we don't have many tracks like that aside from maybe Talladega and I guess Atlanta to an extent. I know the racing's kind of changed within the past year at Atlanta, ever since the repave, but I would definitely say Daytona's an S tier track for me.
Fair enough. I think we average out. What'd you say again, Mike? What was your letter number? Letter
It
score?
was S or A, so I think our balance between all of us would be A.
I agree.
Yeah.
Like I said, well,
I guess more of my disgruntlement comes with just the Daytona 500 being as prestigious as it still is, not with the track itself.
No, that's fair. That's fair.
Fair. I could see that opinion for sure. All right, let's move on to probably a less divisive one. Dover. Now, a lot of people think Dover should go away, right? And younger me definitely would have said that. But I'm not sure I agree anymore. I think nowadays it's pretty much guaranteed to be at least kind of all right. There's nothing else like it. It's kind of just big Bristol, and that you don't get speeds like that in any other short track. Not that Dover is, I'm just saying. So I kind of think this belongs. I don't think it's good, though. I think it's coincidentally in the D category, but I think it is ahead of probably the Clash and Circuit of the Americas. But what do you guys think?
I'd agree with that. It would be high D for me.
I think it could be a contender for C at least, because especially now that they can race each other harder with the composite bodies and like lean on each other and like even bounce it off the wall a couple times and be all right. I think it's made Dover 10 times more interesting than it used to be back when, you know, they'd get behind the car in front of them and just lift them off the ground because they got a little too close, and then, you know, result in a big crash. But it lets down a lot because of weather, I think, too, but
That's fair.
yeah, Xfinity races their slab, so I gotta consider that and put it in C for myself.
Very valid
At
point.
least.
Before you go, Tristan, I do want to say I've missed out on most Dover races, I feel like, in the past 5 years. For whatever reason, just whether it be weather or so on, I always miss this race because it's either on a day I work or I have plans that Sunday, so I might not have the best opinion when it comes to this. But yeah, weather definitely a big factor. Tristan?
So, you know, Matt kind of touched on it a little bit. The Xfinity races genuinely are very entertaining there. Another thing that I kind of take into consideration is I think it's another unique track solely for the reason being that it's one of the very few tracks we have on the schedule that is a concrete track. And you know, that it changes things a little bit there, especially for tire wear and whatnot. But I mean, I'd probably argue that you could probably make an argument for a case that it could be a B tier track. Maybe not necessarily on the Cup side, but I'm thinking more Xfinity. But I think C is a very fair assessment when it comes to Dover.
Okay. I think that'll put our average out to about a C. So we're gonna slot it in right over there for now.
Dov.
Next up, I feel like we're gonna be all in agreement with this. Homestead Miami Speedway.
Yes.
Fantastic. I have not seen a race I haven't enjoyed here. There's really nothing else on the schedule like it anymore. Really, this is an actual oval, full oval shape all the way around. Everybody rips right against the wall. Sometimes on fresh tires, you can make a few moves down low. Eventually, though, it becomes the game of slide jobs up by the wall. People that can really rip along the top side, make a lot of time up. It becomes a very, very, very interesting race, in my opinion. I'm fine with it not being the finale anymore, as long as it's at a good track and not Phoenix. But I think that Homestead is a classic wherever you put it on the schedule. I'm happy they're getting renovations because the grandstands in turn 1 are still below the banking in the corner, so if you sit at the bottom, you can't see anything. But sincerely, though, the racing is phenomenal here. I've not really enjoyed or had any races here, pardon me, where I've not enjoyed myself.
I just love the aesthetic of the track, honestly. It just reminds me of Vice City. So the sunsets are beautiful, the racing's tremendous. It wouldn't be any lower than A for me.
I would go feral for a Cup race that involves a sunset at that track. It's been so long.
Yeah, that's true.
It's definitely at least A, but I would lean S.
Tristan?
I think you guys all pretty much touched on it. Like it's a very good track. I can't remember the last time where I was genuinely bored watching an not Xfinity. Well, even then Xfinity. Any kind of race at Homestead. It's again another track where it's to an extent multi-groove. It's one of the very it's interesting because people are always ripping the top, it feels like, at Homestead, and it's just kind of a matter of how you're gonna not necessarily slide somebody, but just kind of get a run off the corner because of that. And on top of that, say what you will, I love their new logo. I think their new logo for the track is amazing, but that's not important, I guess. But I would say definitely probably an A tier track.
They definitely got the best of the rebrand logos.
Oh, absolutely.
Look at Talladega, dude. That's just depressing.
Yeah, that's not good at all. They really dropped the ball on that one. Next up, Indianapolis. Worth noting, obviously, this is going to be the oval, so we're not going to have the most up-to-date information. This is being recorded the week of the race, so we haven't seen a race here since, 2020? So let's just go off of that. Forget the road course, just the most recent race you can remember there in Cup, and of course, Xfinity. I personally hate the oval here. I'm gonna get murdered, I'm sure, when people hear that. But I don't like this track for stock cars. It doesn't put on a good show ever, in my opinion. I realize it's important. I realize it has heritage and a lot of tradition involved. It's a very, very sacred track, obviously for IndyCar, but even for NASCAR now with the Brickyard. I really don't like the racing though. I've not watched a race here really in my entire lifetime and thought, wow, yeah, this was worth my time. Now, I don't want to give it F tier simply because it's Indy. I can't give it F tier. It's the best race on earth when IndyCar goes. But this isn't about IndyCar. This is about NASCAR and NASCAR tracks. I have this as like a D. Maybe it could be a C.
Really?
But for me, it's a D. But obviously, what do you guys think? It doesn't have to be my opinion. This is where somebody chimes in.
Mike, go ahead. I thought we were going in order. That's why.
You sounded like you had an opinion, so
there's no.
I do have an opinion, but I can hold it.
Well, I don't have a big of an opinion as you do, so go ahead.
Let me make one thing clear first. This is not like a situation. There's not like choreographed. Just talk when you feel the need to talk. Follow your heart.
Okay. Well, see, you said that. Forgive me if I misinterpreted what you said, but it basically sounded like, you don't remember, like you don't recall any exciting times during the Brickyard 400 at least. Is that correct?
Kind of.
Okay.
What my opinion was is like,
I guess,
I've never watched a full race and thought it was worth the time it took to watch that full race here.
I mean, maybe in most recent years. I mean, granted, it's been 4 years since we've been here, so I can understand to an extent, but I mean, we've had some thrilling finishes at Indy, and I can't discard that. Like when Casey Kane won on fuel mileage, when Jimmy Johnson backed it into the outside wall in turn 3, even like going as early as when Paul Menard won here. Can't forget that. Jamie McMurray winning here. That was also a really good race. It's just it's those kinds of finishes that really tie it in for me and like makes it not like I can understand it can be a boring race, like it gets drawn out a little bit, but it's always an exciting finish for me. So I mean, I think personally this would be like more of a B tier at the very least. But curious what you guys think.
I got to gerrymander this vote. That's got to come down a little bit. So I'd probably say D. Like it makes good stories like of different winners and stuff, but I honestly don't remember those races being like exciting races outside of the winner. I mean, I could be wrong because I mean, if it wasn't a crazy race, I'm probably not going to remember it off the top of my head over 5 years ago. But like, I don't know.
I think B would be a good move, a good place for it, because like they're aside from obviously like what the track is and it's a rectangle, it's still, disregarding all of that, is such a unique challenge for everybody involved, the driver, the teams, because like especially back in the 2000s, it was all about like, number one, they're pushing the motors to the absolute limit, like they could explode at any minute. They're trying to make the car as sleek as possible, but still pack as much downforce as they possibly can on it, fly through the corners. And like, especially this year with the car that they can't really do much with, I'm interested to see how they tackle that and how it either bunches the field up or maybe like someone finds something that's just crazy. And even then, again, they're still pushing the motors even though they're limited now as hard as they can.
This is the first year with the next gen, isn't it?
Yeah. They have, it was 2020 the last time on the oval, so. And I mean, even 2020, it was frustrating at the finish, but it was gripping and it was exciting because like you can still fuck up in one of these 4 corners so easily that you never know.
Yeah. No, I see what you're saying, and I will admit, I did forget that they have the restrictor plate package on Xfinity cars. In the past, at least that one race, I think it was 2018, I want to say, the first time they did it. Very good show, in my opinion. And I forgot Xfinity's doing that this year, so that's going to raise it up a little bit for me. I can accept the C, I think. It doesn't have to be a high C, but I think this lands somewhere in the C category. We had a couple Bs, we had a couple fair. Ds. I think that's fine. Now, to where people get even more mad, the Superior Indianapolis track, Lucas Oil Raceway Park, Indianapolis Raceway Park, O'Reilly Raceway Park. There's been so many names. It's the same track. This track is amazing. I've seen so many nationwide Busch Xfinity races here. Never Xfinity, actually, now that I think about it, because of the name reasons. Trucks obviously put on a great show here. I think Arcus has been going there this entire time. Not that they're being included in this, but very, very good track in my opinion. It's kind of similar in a weird way to Homestead, in the sense that you can rip the top and then there's a lot of room to make a move below, but you can completely ruin your corner exit doing that, so it provides a lot of compelling racing. I forget the 2 drivers involved, so forgive me, but I remember in the 2007 race particularly, there was a great battle between a couple people. I want to say Jason Leffler was one of the 2 of them, and they were just going at it for like 30 laps. That was one of the best races I've seen. It happened here. It happens more often than not here. So I'm happy to see the trucks go back. What do you guys think, though?
Good track. At least B.
I'm going to have to give you my voting proxy because I honestly can't remember the last race I've watched of that track.
Yeah, see, the problem... Yeah, I kind of have to agree with Mike, because the problem here is you're talking about a track that only trucks have gone there as of recent. Correct me if I'm wrong. And there was even a hiatus between the last time, what was it, Xfinity, or at the time Nationwide, has been there all the way till now. So I mean, like, yeah, I understand it's just only a truck. Is it? It's only truck, right? It's only trucks that go there.
Trucks and ARCA,
yeah.
Okay, right. So I mean, I mean, I guess like the trucks put a great show on. I mean, I can't necessarily say I remember everything that's ever, or like since they've came back to the track, I can't necessarily say I remember. I couldn't even tell you who won at that track, honestly. It's just kind of one of those tracks where it's like it's kind of forgetful for me, and it's unfortunate because I don't think it's necessarily a bad track. I just don't necessarily think it's anything special at the same time.
Fair enough.
So I mean,
I could say then I can agree with B. It's good. I like it quite a bit. But it's not like it's gonna be on S. Even though as much as I like it, I would never put it in S. So
No.
I can live with B. I think it might be a high B, but we'll cross that bridge again later. Next up, Kansas. And man, oh man, has no track had a glow up like Kansas. This track, I used to never.
Easy.
I used to never look forward to Kansas when it was the first iteration of it. For whatever reason, it just felt like a watered down version of tracks like Chicagoland and Old Texas, and I just wasn't about it. After the reconfiguration, they added some banking, put some progressive banking towards the top. I feel like it took a few years to come into its own. I want to say like 2014, 15. Things started getting really interesting. But recently, man, oh man, that next gen puts on an amazing show there. The Xfinity car, I want to say since like 2017, has put on a lot of really good races there.
Mm-hmm.
Trucks have pretty much always been good there since they've reconfigured it. I think this might be our second S of the day.
I'd agree. There's not a single race I've seen there in the last at least 5 years that hasn't been at least halfway entertaining. So it would be S for me.
I would say A, just because it's like, yeah, it's super entertaining, but like it's still, to me, just a 1.5 mile track. It's just like it still doesn't feel like something super special. Like, yeah, we go into the weekend and we know it's more likely than not going to be like pretty entertaining, but it's still just Kansas to me. I don't know.
How do you feel, Tristan?
I mean, I love Kansas. Don't get me wrong. Kansas is one of my favorite tracks. I don't know if it's necessarily S tier. Maybe personally I would, but I just overall I don't know if it's an S tier track. It's definitely an A tier track at the very least, I think. To kind of touch on what you guys already said, it's one of those tracks where on the schedule I genuinely look forward to it. It's always produced, at least as of recent, it's always produced some really good racing. And I guess some of it is because I kind of compare it to Chicagoland a little bit, and I'm still kind of trying to get my fix on that ever since they've taken that off the schedule. So I mean, I don't know. I love Kansas. I think it's I think it's definitely at least an A tier track.
Okay. So for now, what I'll do, I'll slot this in. I can't put this too far down here, so I'm probably gonna put it right in front of Charlotte.
That's fair.
Definitely a very, very great track. The fact no, like 5 years ago, maybe not 5 years ago, like 10, 15 years ago, I don't think any of us probably would have ranked this above a C. But this track has definitely made some strides. It puts on some great racing. If you live in,
I don't know. Like back then, it still was some really good battles there too. Like I remember, was it Carl Edwards and Jimmy Johnson that had a really good battle there, or was that somewhere else? I want to say it was Kansas.
No, that was here.
Like,
you're right about
okay,
that.
I thought so. So I mean, it's not necessarily like it's been a boring track its whole entire time. It's just kind of more relevant, I guess you could say.
You know, I can concede to that. Next up, and this one's gonna hurt for me at least, is Iowa. If this was maybe a year ago, this would have been absolute worst, a B, a very high B. But man, the repave took a lot of like specialness from this track. Feels like it's very, very one-dimensional now. You have to run in the repaved area, very flat. I'm also a little biased because we just saw the IndyCar race here, which was dreadful. But man, this track used to be so good. I remember the first few races here, even in ARCA, before NASCAR even bothered coming to the track, they were good. Then the Xfinity Series showed up. That was good. Trucks was always pretty good here. I don't know if it's ever going to get back to that. This year was not a great sign. I did enjoy the Cup race, I'll say. But knowing what we had versus what we currently have, it's a little hard to stomach. What do you guys think?
I think that's jumping the gun. I was ready for this. I was watching it get closer on the list because I knew It's just, I think that's an overreaction because when this track was first made, it was putting on bangers. And it's not like they're not going to repave the top lane. They will. And hopefully they do that after. They might even be doing it now. I don't know. No one's talking about it because we already raced there. But I hope, my personal hope is that it ends up happening like next spring. They repave the top lane so that it gives a good winter season on the pavement that was laid down for this year. And then hot, fresh pavement around the top side. And I think that even if they don't do that and they do it like now, it's going to be fine.
Mike?
I mean, I kind of got to side with Kyle here. Like, I'm not. Hold on one sec.
We'll go back to him, Mike.
Like, I really enjoyed the Cup race here. I was expecting it to be a lot more mid than it was. I mean, it still wasn't the best, but like it was acceptable for what we've seen out of the car the last couple years. So I mean, I would probably keep it around C. Like, it's not horrible.
No, definitely not horrible. Tristan?
Sorry about that. So I mean, I was looking forward to this race when I saw it was added to the schedule, and I was kind of disappointed the same way you were about how you just have to run on the newly paved surfaces. That's expected. I mean, don't get me wrong, that's expected. But like, I don't know. I just also, on top of that, I just feel like the track looked awful. I really did. I mean, I don't necessarily know the reasoning behind why they just did the bottom half of the track. I'm not caught up on what their reasoning was and all that, but like, I just don't understand, I guess, why they didn't repave the whole thing. So hopefully hopefully Matt's right when he says like the top lane will eventually get that repave. I think I probably would I'd be looking forward to it a little more next time it comes around, once that's done, I guess. So I mean, probably just C is what I'm thinking. C tier for me.
Okay. I think we're mostly in agreement. I do agree with what Matt said. It could be better, but it's still so much of an unknown. I don't think we could put this higher than a C.
It's not unknown.
I mean, like, how it'll be after the next repave is what I mean.
Well, yeah, but it's still not, because like we saw what the track was when it was first made, and that was fresh pavement.
I mean, yeah, but they might not be using the same materials and stuff.
It'll be fine.
I hope so. I'm optimistic. I'm not going to throw it out, obviously, but I do want them to return. Even if it's the same exact track, I hope they go back. It was cool that they brought it back this year. Unrelated to anything racing related, I really mess with the red grandstands that just look like a barn. Very cool. There's really nothing like that on any of the other tracks. So yeah. I mess with the aesthetic at the very least. Next up, Las Vegas. In my opinion, this is the only mile and a half that's gotten worse with the next gen. I really don't like this car there. Xfinity, obviously, they always put on a pretty solid show. Never the best mile and a half for them, but it's always pretty good. You really can't go wrong with this Xfinity car, I feel like. Trucks put on a pretty good show here. Trucks are going to be doing a lot of the heavy lifting, in my opinion, here. Not always the best, but it's more often than not at least pretty good, and I could settle for that.
I enjoy it. Like, even with what we have now, with the packages we have now, like, it's not the best. Like, it's a far cry from Kansas, but I would probably still put it B or C, in my opinion. Like,
yeah, like N to B.
Yeah, that'd probably be about right.
I mean, yeah, this might be a reach, but I personally like Vegas a lot. I don't know what it is about Vegas. But I mean, Vegas is one of those tracks where I do have some pretty good memories of certain finishes, especially like when Kurt Busch won. What was that? His third to last win, I think. Regardless,
something like that,
when he won here, yeah, and I think it was against his brother too, was, if I'm not mistaken. But that might be it might be a reach to say it, but I could make an argument, I think, for A tier. But I can understand it being a B tier track also. I guess it's just more of a personal thing for me. I've always enjoyed Vegas, and I've always, for the most part, enjoyed the racing there too.
valid opinion. However, due to the 3-1 vote, we are going to
Yeah, that's
toss
fair.
it into
That's
B.
fair.
Yeah,
But you
Las
know what?
Vegas.
I'll put it right here. That's going to go ahead of IRP. I don't like
That's
that,
fair.
but I feel like that's the best way we can,
I
make
mean,
the
they
best
rip the
of it.
fence. They go all over the track. Like, there's lanes. It's good.
That's true. I can see it. Next up is Martinsville. And this is a weird one for me because I love Martinsville. This is one of my favorite tracks we go to. But it is awful with the next gen. It is just an absolute chore to watch with that car. It just feels like bump and runs don't do anything because the cars just squish into one another when you hit them hard enough. You see it a billion times at the Busch Clash. You'll probably see it next year when they go to Bowman Gray. You're definitely going to see it this year when they go back to Martinsville. It just doesn't seem like it has like the same race ability it used to. And it used to be where, like, if you were faster than somebody, there was something you could do about it. I know right now you still can, but sometimes even if you hit them, they just kind of get that speed boost in the center. I'm sure, like, if I really decide to edit this, well enough, I can go pull an example from this year's race, I'm sure. In between all the 5,000 mentions of being Rick Hendrick's, like, 1,000th race or whatever that was. But I don't know. It should be good because Xfinity is fantastic here. Trucks are fantastic here. Every other Cup car has been fantastic here. This is the only one that sucks. So I'm hard pressed to put it anything below A. But what do you guys think?
It would be A or B, in my opinion, because like the lower series definitely still have a lot more. I don't want to call them dirty moves, but like bump and runs that are actual, things you used to see back in the day, and not the concussion slams that you get in the Cup car now. And it has its moments, like the 2022 Cup race, the fall one. It was a decent battle there, that whole last 50 laps, but before that, it kind of sucked. So like, it has its ups and downs. So maybe that would knock it out of A and a B, but I mean, there might be more that I'm not remembering off the top of my head.
I'll say I definitely don't think it's better than Bristol. Regardless of package.
That's fair. I didn't even notice that. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. So,
Tristan?
I don't know. It's just kind of tainted.
Yeah, I mean, we're kind of seeing a trend here for a lot of these tracks where Xfinity or even trucks is kind of just carrying the track at this point, and I guess it kind of revolves more around maybe if we had a different car in the Cup Series, or we're talking about a car that we've already brought to the track. I could make maybe an argument to say that it would be even an S tier track, honestly. But I mean, it's not a bad track. We've had our fair share of excitements here. The racing overall has not been bad. It's always been entertaining. Martinsville, I think, is arguably one of the more entertaining tracks on the schedule. So I mean, I would say like A tier would fit Martinsville perfectly. No more, no less, personally.
Here's what I think I might do. We're going to make our first revision. First, I'm going to put this back up where it probably belonged. Then, I think I'm going to put Martinsville as the top B tier track.
I agree.
Because
all the moves just made.
The potential for this to be better than Atlanta is pretty good. However, it's not. Atlanta says Atlanta's bad. I just hyped up Atlanta before. I really like it. But Martinsville is usually consistently better. But it's not as good as Bristol. So I do think this is a correct move on all parts.
Yeah.
I can accept all this. Next up, we have Michigan. I'm going to be honest with you. I could take it or leave it. We definitely should keep this, actually, in hindsight. There's really not very many tracks like this. But there's a reason why. It's not usually the best. It's fine. It can be there. It's okay. It passes 3 hours, and I usually enjoy myself enough to justify watching the race. But, like, if it disappeared and they replaced it with Auto Club, it'd be awesome. It'd be an upgrade. If this disappeared and they just built a new track that's like Texas World or, any other 2-mile track that might be a little bit easier to pass on, I'm fine with it. This track before the repave, I feel like was really, really, really good. For whatever reason, when they repaved it, it never really got that kind of raceability back. It's kind of getting a little closer to it now because you finally have that second groove coming in. But I don't know. It shouldn't take PJ1 to make this groove or second groove come in. It shouldn't take resin for that to happen. It shouldn't take nonsense going on in the bottom lane and you just ride around the high side. Not recently, but I think in like 2018 to like 21 or something like that, they definitely put resin down.
Did they? Okay.
Whole top half.
Yeah.
I guess I don't remember that very well.
It's not as visible.
I guess they did
because
that
track dark.
Right.
It's definitely an uphill battle to get a really good race at that track. So I mean,
maybe this is me being conceited. I feel like our TOECAR race there beats anything with the real track has put out in 15
that was
years.
one of the best races of the season.
Trucks was the shit, and we don't do it anymore.
Yes, that can't even count then. Yeah, that's the craziest part.
I guess I'm biased because me going to Michigan all the time as a childhood or as a child and just kind of growing up, it's still do to this day. Like Michigan being my home track, I obviously have some fond memories at the track. I think I can understand like the racing may not be as good, but to what you also said at the same time, Kyle, you also said like this is kind of the only track that we have that is like this, and because now that we don't have Auto Club, or at least we don't have the version of Auto Club that it used to be, it's got its place on the schedule. I still don't know why trucks took it off. I hope they eventually go back. I hope that's one of my biggest things is I want them to go back. I've seen quite a few truck races there, and I've always been entertained. And I guess it's more so you don't get to see it, the full experience, even like in the cup races from the TV. I mean, Matt, you were there in the suite that one year with us, or yeah, what was that, 2020, 2021? I can't remember.
2019.
But 2019, that's right. And I mean, I'm curious what you thought. Did you think like it was better in person? Like you could see a little more of what's going on, or?
Yeah, I don't think I got a fair shake on that, given it was 2019. But I will say that, disappointingly, I think Xfinity's running the super speedway type stuff.
They are, yeah.
At Michigan this year.
Okay.
Because Xfinity was doing good at Michigan, like enough to make it be at least in the C tier. Like high C tier.
Great drink.
Grape drink. Oh yeah, grape drink put on bangers here every single time.
Oh my gosh.
That is true. We have to rebadge it to something else.
I don't know. I would feel very wrong if I rank this any lower than a B, personally. I think the racing isn't necessarily as bad as it seems. It's not great, don't get me wrong. I'm not gonna necessarily put it on a pedestal and say it's the best racing out there, because it's not. But because I don't know, it just wouldn't feel right if it wasn't anything lower than a B. If it was anything lower than a B, I guess.
I think here's what we're gonna do. We have enough of a track size here, sample size, pardon me, so we're like, you can kind of gauge where a track probably belongs. I think this slots number one in C tier, because I can't put it in good faith with some of these tracks. Like Martinsville is one of the all-time greats. Atlanta's really good lately. Vegas is solid most of the time, and IRP is great.
Vegas does what Michigan wants to be able to do.
Yes. So for that, I definitely think it's better than Roval. I definitely think it's better than Dover, and I definitely think it's better than Indy and Iowa right now. So I think this is perfect for this.
I disagree, but that's okay.
Understood. Next up, the Milwaukee Mile. This one is kind of weird because they were gone forever, and then we had, I think, one race since then. It's the oldest racetrack in America, if you didn't know. It's not Indy, it's Milwaukee. So that's really cool, and I feel like that earns it a few points with me, but definitely not the best race as far as like actual on-track action. Honestly, the truck race that just happened last year was probably one of the best I'd seen. It wasn't like, insane, but it was pretty solid. That could kind of show you where I expect the bar to be at Milwaukee. It was more of a track that they just went to for historical reasons, in my opinion, similar to Indy in some ways. But I think this deserves maybe like bottom tier of C. I don't think it belongs with Circuit of the America and the Clash.
No, like I don't even recall any races, like in particular from that track, outside of just seeing race footage, and it would definitely already rank above the other two down there. So
yeah, somewhere in C. It's okay.
Tristan? He's
All right,
speechless. Cool. Loves it. All right. C tier is going to be where that goes. Definitely worse than
Sorry,
Iowa.
I'm back.
Milwaukee.
Did I miss something?
Just Milwaukee. Any opinions?
Yeah, C is fine. Honestly, I don't. Again, like you said, it's one of those tracks where we haven't really gone there much until recently. So I mean, I don't really have anything to say. Nothing negative, nothing positive though. C tier is fine.
Very fair. Next up, Nashville Super Speedway. Man, do I wish this was the other Nashville track instead, as I'm sure most of you do. But I'm not gonna lie, I've actually been pretty pleasantly surprised with the racing there. It feels like more often than not, I'm enjoying myself watching the races at Nashville. Is it as good as like Charlotte and Kansas? No. But I think this could easily slot in as maybe the second best C tier track. If we're really gonna push it, it could be in the B tier somewhere. But what do you guys think first?
I'd put it right behind Michigan, but it definitely ahead of the Roval.
Yeah, I mean,
think, like Tristan
go
said
ahead, Matt.
earlier, concrete track, concrete flat-ish, mile and a half-ish track. I don't know how to describe that, but yeah, I think it just again produces a different challenge, both because of the concrete and just because of the way the track is designed. And I think it's put on way better racing than it on paper should be. So I might even put it right behind Lucas Oil.
I could see.
Yeah, I was gonna say the same thing. I'm kind of with Matt on this one. I mean, the racing has been pretty good since we started going here. Again, for the first time for the Cup Series, I've enjoyed every Nashville race so far. I can confidently say every Nashville race that I've watched, at least on the Cup side, has been really good. I don't think it's necessarily an A tier track or anything, but it is a good track. So I'm with Matt and say I put that right behind. I'd even put it ahead of Lucas Oil personally, but a B tier track nonetheless.
I think I can live with that. I think we're gonna put it up there. All right. Next up is a track I've personally had a very big change of opinion on in the past 5 years. New Hampshire.
Yeah.
I don't know what's changed. Quite frankly, I feel like a lot of the time I have a good understanding, I guess, of what's actually different about the product that I'm liking. I'm not sure what it is at New Hampshire, but it's really been fun. I've really enjoyed it the past few years. I like seeing them fan out 3-4 wide into the corners. Obviously, a really wide track, so you have room for that. Not that there's a lot of space in the groove, but still, though, on restarts, you'll see a lot of that. I feel like there's a lot of cool tire wear that plays out usually. Maybe not so much with the next gen, but I feel like over time in a long run, though, you do get some pretty good battles. And maybe it was just seeing it in person. I went here for the first time in 2022, and I maybe got a better understanding of exactly how cool it is more towards the middle of the pack at this track. I feel like I'm more often than not, at the very least, content with their product. I don't think it's higher than a B, obviously, but I do think I enjoy myself more often than not. What do you think?
Yeah, I definitely think it's upgraded from way lower, probably D, all the way up to probably end of B. Like, like you said, I don't understand what they did, but it's definitely not the complete catastrophe of an afternoon that it usually would be every Sunday they went there.
Yeah, which used to be twice.
Oof.
And now that it's good, they only go there once. What the hell?
Just like Charlotte.
Maybe that's why. Maybe we just like it better because there's less of it.
No, it's definitely better. Because I still end up watching that one on TV every year. I still have yet to be to New Hampshire. It's the only track.
We don't
No,
need,
I've
we
never
don't
been
need
to
Morgan
Milwaukee.
Shepherd anymore.
We did cancel Morgan Shepherd.
Yeah.
But Tristan?
Yeah, it's just good. B.
I mean, I used to like New Hampshire, but the fact that Eric Almirola won there, no, I'm kidding.
The hatred runs deep.
Yeah. No, it's a good track. I think we definitely got a very unique experience this year with the rain tires. So, I mean, I don't know if I can necessarily take that into account, but like, it grabbed my attention. It did its job and grabbed my attention, even though NASCAR kind of fumbled the bag on the rain tire procedure. So I mean, I think it's a C tier track personally. It's good. It's not great, but it's not bad.
I think
that's what I think.
I think I lean the same way Tristan does. I do enjoy it, but I think I don't enjoy it as much as I do Michigan. So I think it's probably second best in this category. I'm open to always moving this up to B later because it does have that potential. But for right now, at least that feels like the right spot. Obviously, once again, we're going to talk about them briefly again at the end, so we have time to fix things. Speaking of fixing things, North Wilkesboro. I've actually been pleasantly surprised with this track. I thought it was going to be just, a flash in the pan, like, oh, cool, we brought back this track that we abandoned. Like, I thought we'd have one really cool weekend and life would go on, everybody go in their separate ways. I'm happy they stuck it out. They still brought it back last year, or this year, I guess. I don't know. It's not my favorite track. Even the footage of it in the 90s and 80s and so on. I've watched a lot of those races on NASCAR Classic. It's fine. It's okay. It's definitely not where I would regard like Bristol, Martinsville, etc. as far as short tracks are concerned. But it's fine. It's probably good that it's back. I know a lot of the fans in that area are very happy about it. I'm sure their economy is as well. But I mean, it's fine. It should be there, but I don't necessarily look forward to it.
Yeah, like it definitely brings a lot of historic value to the sport going back there, but as far as the racing goes, it's probably low C, but adding in the context of the track, it'd probably rank it way higher in C, but maybe B, but I would probably say a higher C.
I think it definitely could be B or even A, with specifically the Xfinity car in its current state. But I think that would be the only thing that puts it up that high. So I mean, we see trucks race really great, but it's still like, I don't know, it just feels like flat Bristol, if that makes sense. Obviously it's not flat, it's still banked, but obviously not as much as Bristol. So that kind of takes away from some of the fun that Bristol adds. But I don't know, I'd be fine with like end of B, or like, I think I like it more than Michigan. I don't know.
I have a hot take. I don't like North Wilkesboro, or at least what it is right now. I don't think the repave did anything for it. I mean, and maybe it's because we haven't seen an actual cup race yet. We've only been there for all-star races, and those, let's be real, those don't mean anything anymore. So I mean, if we saw this as a points race, maybe I'd have a different opinion, because maybe people would be actually like, I'm not saying that they're not trying in the all-star race, because yeah, there's still stakes, but like, let's be real, it's not taken as seriously. I dare say a D tier. I really do. Wow. I don't think it's anything spectacular personally.
That's a take.
I don't get me wrong, I'm glad they brought it back. I think it does have its place, but out of all the short tracks, excluding the Clash, out of all the short tracks, I think this is the worst one we have right now.
I think if we pull our scores together here, it's probably gonna live. Fix that. Probably gonna live somewhere like here. Perhaps maybe its potential can be B. I don't know if it could be A. I know Matt said A. I'm not sure I see that. I do think if everything goes well.
Just the Xfinity car.
Oh well, yeah, but yeah, to be fair though, you could put the Xfinity cars in somebody's backyard and put on a show. So I'm not sure that's really the greatest metric, but pardon me. I definitely think keep it around. Please don't abandon this place again. It's really popular for a reason. People there love it, but I'm not really like, chomping at the bit to go watch my TV, go see a race in North Wilkesboro, Next up, I'm just going to do something. I think we all agree. Are we in the same group? Next?
Yep.
Next, okay.
Yeah.
Fuck Phoenix. You know what? Hold on. I was going to do something. We're going to wait. Next up, Pocono. By the way, real quick, I'm not going to go into detail, but fix this, please. Either turn it into something better or stop going here for the finale. I can live with it once as long as it's not the finale, please.
Yeah, we don't need to go there two times a year compared to other tracks. I don't know why we do in the first place.
If Homestead never got 2 as the finale, I don't think Phoenix should.
That cactus was expensive, that's why.
You know what? We put Warren on the flag stand at Talladega that one time, and I feel like that was significantly better. Anyway.
Oh my god.
Pocono Raceway. This one is a little weird too because it should be good, but sometimes it's just not. You know, like you can get a lot of really cool battles. You can get a lot of really cool fuel mileage strategies, but sometimes, like let's look at yesterday for example. It felt like the leader at all times had like an 8-second lead unless it was on a restart. I felt like that was like just where they started almost, and I'm not sure why that's been so bad. I feel like sometimes in the past, whether it be even with the next gen or some of the older cars they used to race, that wasn't as much of an issue. I really like the track for the Xfinity car. As we mentioned, though, that's just a given. Trucks put on a great show here, usually. So this one could really live anywhere. I personally like it, but I could probably rank this anywhere from low C to, like, high B. It's a big wide margin there.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those in-betweeners, so... Yeah, probably, like, low B for me.
Yeah. Yeah, like,
I mean,
it's so fun and interesting. Just, even with, like, the high downforce 550 package, like... Yeah, we only had a crazy finish because Kyle Larson blew a tire, but, like... Even with that, it was still, like, it's still fun to watch them drive around Pocono. Because it's just, there's nothing else like it, and it's not like saying that about the Clash or something like that. Like, oh, there's nothing else like it. Like, I think right behind Nashville would be appropriate. I think it's more interesting than Michigan regularly at this point because, like you said, the fuel mileage plays a factor sometimes. And even with stages, they've laid them out pretty well to still incorporate that because we usually have a caution or two or whatever, and if we don't, then even more strategy. I don't know. It's fun.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with Matt. I think B tier would be right behind Nashville, roughly. It slots in pretty good there, I'd say. I mean, this is one of the few tracks. Well, not few. This is one of the tracks I would say that I do genuinely look forward to. It usually puts on a pretty good show. I've had the pleasure of being here and seeing a race once before, and even in person. It's fun to watch, and the scenery on top of that is beautiful out there. It really is. If anyone ever gets a chance to, I highly recommend putting it on your bucket list. I think it's a really good track. It's beautiful out there, like I said. Maybe not this year if you were stuck in that traffic though, but that's a different story. I like Pocono. I think Pocono is a great track and deserves a B tier at the very least.
I think it's unanimous on this one. Because
Race.
I said high B, low C. You know where the middle of that is? High B or low C or high C. We'll try. We know what I meant. We're gonna move on. Sorry.
Amps or speed?
Listen, I'm getting all of the mistakes out of the way now, so we can record a great TOECAR finale. Moving on to one of my favorite tracks, personally, Portland.
Really?
I love this place. This is the perfect kind of road course if you're going to go to a permanent circuit for me. It's right up there with the Watkins line. It's a spoiler. I'm going to like that track too. But it's perfect in the sense that the lap times are very quick, which is very, very much what you want, in my opinion, for stock car racing. It keeps the cars a little closer together. If you're actually attending the race, you can see a lot more of the cars. If you go to a place like Sonoma or Road America, which I do like those tracks in their own ways, but sometimes you just don't see as much. There's a lot of trees and so on that'll block your view. Not at Sonoma, but definitely at Road America. Portland, it feels like it's that perfect middle ground. It's right next to the city. There's a whole bunch to do. It's a beautiful track, similar to Pocono. The scenery there is amazing. I've never seen it in person, but everything I've ever seen photo-wise is amazing. Very, very unique track in the sense that it has that goofy chicane in the first few corners. I really like that. It completely provides a whole extra wrinkle that you don't see at a lot of the other tracks on this schedule. Although, I will say this has one very, very big issue. It's very similar to the issue that I talked about earlier with Chicago. Fix the restart zones, please. Why does every road course have a restart zone before the last corner now? I get it. COTA 2023 was a mess. I agree. But it happened one time. It's time to move on and fix things, please. But for me, worst case scenario, I'm looking at like a B. But what do you guys think?
Well, I've continued my streak of never seeing a race of that track, so I can't answer this one.
Fair enough.
Well, I mean,
it's all right.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Matt. It's all right. But I'll let you go ahead if you want to talk more about it first.
I don't really have that much to say. I never really get to watch it going on while something else was either just going on or is about to go on or like whatever at Gateway usually.
Now, one thing I will say,
people like it.
yeah, I mean, and one thing I will say is I do like that it's its own event. Teams might not necessarily like it as much, but the fact that it's a standalone event, you get some drivers who don't normally get the chance to race out there. Like, I guess what I'm trying to say is you don't normally get like the Cup drivers coming out to race it, so that's always an advantage. I think any race without a Cup driver in the Xfinity series is a plus personally. But I don't know. The one thing that you said about the scenery, Kyle, I guess because I've never been there, and I don't think you have either, and that's fine. But like, anytime I saw it on TV, like watch a race of it on TV, it kind of looked like a dump a little bit. I feel like this track really needs some renovations for me to be sold on it more than anything. I don't know. It doesn't really do much for me. It's unique though, so because of that, I would say at least a B tier road course. I don't necessarily think it's the best one we have, but it's okay.
I can agree to that. I think probably Liz very, very much at the back of this line then, but could definitely improve. I do see what you're saying. In some ways, in some parts of the track, I should say, kind of feels like a golf course. There's just a lot of grass. So maybe they add a few more festive things over there. Maybe they add, a little bit of a closer wall on that backstretch. I know the wall's right on the right side of the backstretch there, and then there's like an acre of land to the left. It feels like
cut their lawn too, because if I remember correctly, they have like grassy knolls all over the place.
It feels very much like VIR to me, in the sense that like it's just kind of a road in the middle of the forest.
Right.
I personally like that, but I do see where you're coming from. That makes complete sense. All right, next up we have Richmond, and this is one that I'm gonna be honest. This is where I think I differ from you guys. I don't like Richmond. It's interesting sometimes with the tire strategy, but it feels like more often than not, one of those two strategies is just infinitely better. And then everybody adopts that, and then you get like your one straggler, like Ricky Stenhouse or whoever, Chris Buescher. They'll stay out or do something different, and it never works. But if you take them out of the equation, it feels a lot more two-dimensional than it should. This track, I don't need it to be what it was in the early thousands, because those races were just wreck fests. But some of the races that are a little bit more in that middle ground, I remember the 2014 race, one of the first years with the Gen 6. That was very, very good. I remember liking that race kind of start to finish, the spring race. Then, on the contrary, the very race before that, fall 2013, was dreadful. That was the race where the fan climbed the fence, and that was like the only thing that happened. So like,
there was something else that happened that race.
Yeah.
Racing wise.
Well, yeah.
I'm not gonna listen. We're not gonna talk about the crimes of Mike's favorite driver. We're gonna talk about the racing.
High Horse isn't my favorite driver.
Well, moving on.
Should be.
Richmond.
So,
Richmond it's all right for me, but it's not great. What do you think?
go ahead.
After me.
All you, Mike.
Besides that 2014 race there with that good battle, every other time it feels like a fever dream. I'm just sitting there, melatonin off the charts, watching the 19 Auto Trader's car lead the race. I'd put it behind Phoenix.
Oh man,
I don't know about that.
Phoenix at least has crazy restarts with the lack of an inside wall.
I get what you're saying, I guess, but I think it's a stretch to put it F tier necessarily. I don't know. I see a lot of it's tainted for me because I'm just so nostalgic for. This used to be Richmond used to be one of the very few tracks, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was the only track back in the early 1990s, where it was a standalone night race. And yeah, I mean, I love night racing. Don't get me wrong. I love races that are under the lights, but exclusively Richmond, it just felt like it was so special because that was one of the very few times back it it's kind of lost that novelty because of it, because of it now being sometimes daytime, sometimes nighttime, or whenever it doesn't rain, or for that matter. But I don't know. I miss what it used to be. I can't necessarily say there's anything that stands out to me, at least in present day, at Richmond. So I mean, I don't think it's an F tier track, nor do I think it's a D tier track, but I think it's I would say it is a low C tier track.
Matt?
Yeah, I think low C would be okay, because it's like, I want to hate it because it doesn't really do much for me anymore, but I hold out hope that one day it will.
Okay.
Another thing for me, I just want to touch on this real quickly. Another thing for me is, and I guess this is, you can make an argument for this with any track, but like when I think Richmond, I think packed crowd, early 2000s. You get the camera flashes from the stands. You don't get that anymore anyway, but like, it just doesn't feel like they even have it like a full crowd. I don't think they've, like, attendance is always really low there, and I guess that kind of just makes it feel a little saddish, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
It's less surrounded too.
Right. So I mean,
that backstretch grandstand sat empty for like a decade before they tore it down, so I know exactly what you mean.
And it's little things like that that just really, really makes it tainted for me, I guess you could say.
I agree. I think this belongs right behind Milwaukee. I can't get on board with the F thing. I maybe could have been convinced of D, but I can't be convinced of F. I'm sorry.
Right.
That track and never mind.
All right, moving on. So another one that's kind of a stinker. Sonoma. This track didn't have good racing to offer. It never did. So I don't know why they got the chaos part of it taken away as well. And I went on a tangent about this a few weeks ago, specifically with you guys, so I'm not even going to go back into it. But for the viewers, basically, a track for me has to offer one of two things. Some offer both, and that's awesome. Those are the special ones. But a track has to offer at least one of these two things. Chaos or good racing. I'm fine with either one. It doesn't have to be both. One is fine. But this track offers zero now. I need them to put tire sacks everywhere again. I want to see cars flipping over at 7 miles an hour. That was the only thing this track had to offer. The big hill, that cool bridge they had. Why did they tear that down? I don't know. I'm sure there was a reason, but I don't know. It has no aura. It's just a dirt pit in the middle of California where nothing happens.
Wherever we rank it, it would be ranked at least one above that if they went there when the grass was alive.
Yeah,
that's fair. Yeah,
true.
Yeah,
I don't know. It's just there. It looks cool. Ish.
They have grapes.
They have wine.
Yeah, they had grapes. They have wine.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna knock it down entirely because we've had some good races at Sonoma, especially for the finish. Like obviously the one thing that always stands out to me is Tony Stewart's final victory there. But I mean, and even Daniel Suarez's win here was huge also, and like that was something I'll never forget. But like I don't think it's a bad road course. I wish, I guess I do wish it was a little greener, but that's besides the point. I don't know.
Let me ask you this, Tristan.
Go ahead.
Those races you just named, the Suarez win, the Tony Stewart win, were those good races, or did you just like the winner of the race?
Well, considering that I don't even consider myself a Tony Stewart fan. I genuinely thought that was a great race. I guess I get what you're saying because I don't remember the race itself. I just remember the closing laps. So I guess I'm thinking more so like the finishes there haven't been terrible. I guess you could exclude the Daniel Suarez thing for that, but like I don't know. I get what you're saying. And maybe it is more so I do like the winner. I won't deny that, but like I don't think it's a bad road course. The one thing that really bothers me about Sonoma is it feels like they're changing the track layout every time we go there though. Because weren't we just using the IndyCar course and then we decided to revert back? Is that something
Well-
that happened, or is that just a fever dream?
No.
That did happen, but I wouldn't word it that way. It was the NASCAR layout, basically. It's a little
Oh,
different.
no. IndyCar layout's way different.
In the S's. Other than that, it's just the hairpin, but the hairpins, I guess. But
Yeah.
I don't know. It is a different layout, but I see what your point is. They definitely do change it a lot. I think the wall being there this year was kind of goofy, but that's more what I want. Like, that adds the chaos that I want to see, because you could have a track blocker with like 2 cars now. But
I don't know.
I think as it stands currently, D tier. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to put an F. That's disrespectful. D tier.
Really?
It's definitely better than those, though.
You think?
Yeah.
But is it as good as these? Right now, it's in the same
No,
category.
I mean, like, put it ahead of the other
Oh,
two.
so, you know what? Sorry, I was mistaken. That's true. It definitely is better than these two.
I don't know.
I'm gonna make one other adjustment while we're here. I'm gonna put this ahead of the Clash because that feels right.
I mean, I guess we could come back to it, but I don't know. I don't think Sonoma's necessarily a D tier personally. I don't. But I don't know.
Hear me out.
I guess it's a majority vote.
Put the tire bundles everywhere again and race it in March when the grass is actually green. It's automatically middle of C tier. And then if it races better, we can even talk higher. But it's gotta have those things happen first.
All right, fair enough.
Talladega. It would feel weird if this wasn't in the same category as Daytona because they're almost the same.
I agree.
Obviously, I agree with what Mike said earlier when he said that Daytona feels like a more drawn or a better version of Talladega in the sense that there's a little bit more of a handling aspect, especially with the next gen. This next gen has not been good for super speedway racing at Talladega. It feels more often than not they just end up side by side and pacing at 188 or whatever. So it's fine. It's definitely an A tier because it's so popular for a reason. People love this style of racing. It provides some of the most chaotic moments, some of the coolest finishes you could possibly imagine in the sport. I can't put it in S, obviously, even if Daytona was, because there's a lot of controversy usually at Talladega for whatever reason. It seems more often than not if somebody's going to have like a passing under the line penalty, or if like an Xfinity truck race happens, like they lock the bumpers and somebody gets penalized. It feels like that happens more here than at Daytona, and definitely doesn't happen at Atlanta, especially the pushing rule, because that doesn't exist there. I think there's nowhere else to put this but here. But what do you guys think before I leave it there?
I agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know if it's better than Homestead.
well, I don't think it's necessarily. Well, if you think Homestead's better than Talladega, I think you can make a point for Daytona also. I mean, I matched them together. I think everything I said about Daytona earlier can carry over to Talladega. If anything, I like Talladega more because it's a lot more wider, and therefore you see more. At least as of recently, it feels like I've seen more like 4 wide racing. Even though sometimes they wreck, whatever. But it's more racy to me. It feels like. But I don't know. I think it doesn't go anywhere other than an A tier personally.
Okay. We can revisit if it needs to be positioned a little differently. Same with Daytona, of course.
Mm-hmm.
But I think we're all in agreement. It does belong in A in some capacity. So we're gonna leave it there for now. I'm also gonna do this.
Well, now hold on.
Okay. We have a conversation. Okay. I wasn't sure we'd have one. Make your case.
So, the only reason I say hold on is because, trust me, I hate Texas just as much as the next guy. However, the Xfinity series at Texas has put on some pretty good bangers in recent years. And I think this year especially was kind of a turning point for me. It was like, maybe Texas isn't as bad as I thought it was. I'm not going to go out of my way and say it's necessarily a great track. Because if this was like a year ago, I would have said maybe F tier 100%. But like, we've had some pretty good Xfinity races here. I'm not gonna deny that. So I mean, I don't know. What do you guys think?
I would probably say it would be ranking around Sonoma.
Matt?
Yeah. It's okay. I just hate it so much because it would be so much better if it didn't get slaughtered like it did.
Right. They massacred my boy.
They did.
I'm gonna be honest. I never liked Texas. Like, not a single one of them. But I was really good in here at NR and in iRacing. So I'm going to put it smack dab where you guys said. I feel like you guys are in agreement besides me. So that probably is where that actually belongs. Next up, Watkins Glen. I love Watkins Glen. It's a good track. It's a great track, really. It's in a beautiful part of the country. If you've not been to Watkins Glen, trust me, that is a place you want to visit. Forget the race even. Just visit the town. It is so beautiful. There's so many little like restaurants and like stuff on the main street. It's got a really nice little crossing. There's always a lot to do, especially on race weekend. I feel like the camping there is immaculate. I've been there camping twice now. Neither time at the actual track, just areas nearby. Very different experiences. There's the gorge. Taking all of that out of the equation though, just strictly talking racing here. Beautiful racing almost every single year. This is our track I have never not looked forward to. It's always consistently at least a pretty good race. I think the only one in recent history, not even recent history anymore, the only one in like the past 20 years that I wasn't too keen on was probably the 2013 race. And I don't even think that was bad. I think it was just that 2011 and 2012 were the two before it. And how are you going to ever live up to that? You know? So,
right.
So I really love this place. The repave happened. I don't think it made things any worse, in my opinion. And that's a very tough thing to say in 2024. Really ever, but especially now when they make the tracks out of like permanent fucking material that never wears down. So, what do you guys think though?
I enjoy it every time we go there too. So I mean, I was never like growing up real big on road courses, but Watkins Glen was always like an exception for me. Like I always enjoyed it, and just Sonoma was the one I always had to get through. So I would definitely put it up at least B tier.
I think B's perfect for it because I think the repave did kind of affect it negatively because they're just going so fast around there, which is cool and definitely puts it at least in B tier, because it's just really fun to watch, but the racing there hasn't been as exciting as it used to be. So I just think it's definitely high in B, but I'd say definitely in B somewhere.
I guess one thing I don't like, they redid the curb right before the bus stop, didn't they? Is that something
we
that
haven't seen that?
Yes.
Right. So I mean, I guess I can't really comment on that because of it, but I don't know. I guess leaving that out of the factor.
Just for information's sake, I forget what cars they were. It's been a few weeks, I think, but I did see footage of somebody testing there, and it seems like they just rip right over it. It seems like it's nothing different than what it used to be. It just looks a little different.
Okay. I mean, I've always enjoyed watching Watkins Glen. That's one of another track that I would go out of my way to work off just to watch because it's always unique. And you know, we sometimes do get those surprise winners like AJ Allmendinger or even Marcus Ambrose. I guess you maybe not necessarily a surprise because they're so good at it, but like you get those drivers that don't normally win on a regular basis, put them on a road course where they excel at, and there's where I find it exciting, at least. I guess another thing that I do appreciate is the fact that I don't know if it's still on the schedule. Do trucks still go there?
No.
Or
They
was
do not. I think
no?
that was a one-off
Okay.
that 1 year.
That was just a one-time thing. Okay. Well, then never mind. I couldn't remember if they that was just a one-time thing or not. But like, I did like when they brought the trucks back there, even for a season. I thought that was fun. But yeah, Watkins Glen's always exciting to me. High B. I would say high B for me. I even would go out of my way and say bottom of A, roughly. I think it's a great track.
I don't know
I
if
really
I can
do.
go bottom of A, but I think I do want to do this. I think I like this more than Atlanta. I think I like it more. I definitely like it more than Vegas, and I think I like it more than all the rest of these. Once again, one more track, then we'll revisit that. And I don't know if there'll be much to discuss with this because next up is Gateway, Worldwide Technology Raceway, as it's actually known. I don't like this place. It doesn't like it should go away. It doesn't have to, but like I could easily sleep through this race or watch anything else that Sunday and be fine. Doesn't matter what series it is. Trucks, they're kind of alright, I guess, sometimes. But this year, you could have missed that whole race and nothing would have changed. Xfinity doesn't go here anymore. I feel like they were probably the series best suited to be here, which is kind of a shame they're not going anymore. But I don't know. Take it or leave it for me. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it is a take it or leave it, honestly. So it would probably be like low C, maybe high D, if you put some other things into account, like recently.
You're just mad that Blaney ran out of gas there.
Yeah.
I think it's definitely ahead of Milwaukee at least. And again, I don't think Iowa should be right there. Obviously, Iowa's ahead of this, so I think right ahead of the Walkie me or my.
The Walkie My with the checkered flag.
I
could agree.
I'm
with that.
biased.
Well,
I'm
sorry,
biased because I agree. It's C tier probably right where Matt says. I guess I'm just a little biased that Austin Cindric won there, and I don't know. I've enjoyed it. We've had some entertaining things happen at Milwaukee, or not Milwaukee. I'm sorry, Gateway. So I mean,
Bill McCoy.
Yeah.
That did.
Yeah, that
did
happened.
happen.
That did happen there. Yep, I forgot about that. So I mean, and it's not a track. Like I mean, even decades ago, they've had some good races there too. Like what Matt was referring to when Carl Edwards dumped Brad Keselowski coming to the line. But I don't know. I enjoy Gateway. I think it's a solid C. It's a solid C for me.
Okay. I do think after seeing the entire context, I think I do agree with Matt in one way. I think this is too low. I don't think it's B. I really don't. But I do think it belongs.
It's definitely better than Wilkesboro.
I think it's probably up. Oh, yeah. No,
No, I agree.
I agree with that. Because
the ceiling is higher than New Hampshire has.
Yeah,
I think we're seeing the best New Hampshire could possibly put on right now.
You're probably right, and that's I enjoy it. It's good, but like it's probably not what Iowa can do. So you know what?
Yeah.
I'll concede that. Does anything else stand out here to anybody?
If we're going, I don't know. I still think Sonoma is ranked a little low. I definitely think it's at least better than Richmond.
That's fair.
He's kind of cooking. I'm not gonna.
Because at least it looks nice while nothing's going on.
So
You know
I mean,
there, I'll do that. I can agree with that
Dude,
too.
sun rack.
Because it also feels disrespectful putting that with Texas. Because like when Sonoma rolls around, I'm like, oh, okay, cool. That should be pretty good. And then whenever Texas rolls around, it's just the worst weekend of my life until eventually the race passes and it's fine. But man, yeah, I don't think that's respectful to Sonoma to be there. Still not good. Honestly, anything probably from like Gateway beyond. I think all of those can easily disappear from the schedule, and I'd be fine. I think that'd be probably a net positive. But nonetheless, they're on the tracks, or on the schedule now at least. So we're gonna make do, and this is where I think everything shakes out. The only thing that maybe stands out might be, do we want to actually bump Homestead above the super speedways? Because I think it has a case.
So
I don't think it matters either way. I mean, it really depends on the year. Whatever one's better, it really does.
I like flip.
I like flips.
Fair enough. Very fair.
So I mean, in no disrespect to Homestead, but I do think Daytona and Talladega are very much more entertaining than Homestead is, personally.
All right, I think we're all in agreement then. So that's it. If you ever cared about what the TOECAR cast thinks about the schedule, this is, I guess, where that stands. Hopefully Phoenix completely gets destroyed in the next 5 minutes. I know it won't, but man, oh man, am I praying. And yeah, Darlington's great. That's really what we've learned today. I thought we'd have more people in the S tier. It's just Darlington standing alone, and I'm okay with that because it's my favorite track. I can only speak for me. But anyways, no need for a formal outro, pardon me. If you made it all the way through, how far are we into this? We're like an hour and a half in. If you made it the whole way, shout out to you. If you have any opinions that you don't agree with, feel free to comment them or just harass me on Twitter. I'm sure it's in the description. Anyways, deuces.
Bye. Deuces.